like a celebrity in this town.
As before, I don't generally review whole games. The second obvious question, then, is can you really spend an entire episode just on that? Is there really that much to Bayonetta? To which I would respond, yeah. Have you looked at her? If this were a flesh-and-blood woman, Bayonetta would be what you'd call a project. As in, if you want her, you're probably going to have to work for it. And if you get her, you're really going to have to work for it. Forget all the usual courtship questions of how nice your car may or may not be, how much you can spend, whatever. This is more like prepping for a mountaineering expedition, and the questions are more like, do I have enough hours in the day to get all the way up and all the way down that thing? Should I bring my own oxygen supply? Is there a point where it'll be safe to take time out for an energy drink or a power bar? A woman like this, in those rare instances where they exist at all, are questions of stamina, both physical and psychological. The body says, you don't have what it takes. And then the eyes say, if you don't, she's going to let you know. And trust me, there are few humiliation... let's not talk about that. Take a good look at Bayonetta in being short of a 6'7" teddy bear hooked up to a jack. Top sexy that she becomes a kind of self-reflecting social commentary, although both concepts are more than spoken for. The history of video games is packed with overly sexualized fan service, and the trade of making animated 3D figures sexually appealing was honed to a fine art long before this. But from a design standpoint, both in terms of personality and physical form, I offer that Bayonetta represents something like a drastic step to the next level, or at least a singularly fascinating mutation. The beauty as a weapon thing has been done, yes, but it's never been taken quite this far without pulling any punches. Often, female game characters tend to break along the familiar lines wherein sexuality increases or decreases in inverse proportion to supposed virtue. Let's be clear. No matter what Rule 34 or certain depths of DeviantArt have to say on the matter, Princess Peach simply isn't a sexual being. For the most part. Zelda kind of is, but since she's a literal princess, she, on the other hand, is not only a sexual being, she's allowed to be proud and self-embracing of it. Because she's bad, don't you know, so it's okay. Now, that's a dichotomy that's as old as dirt, and a double standard that no longer represents anything close to the majority of women in games. I just wanted to get it out of the way early on. For the most part, the girls of gaming are equal parts super tough and super gorgeous, but there's almost always some sort of mitigating detail that's designed to soften the impact one way or the other. For the most part, this comes in two flavors. To save times, we'll call the flavors Chun-Li and Cammy. Consider Chun-Li first. Allegedly, this is the world's strongest woman. She's a mistress of the martial arts, beats up men, women, and beasts twice her size professionally, and is often drawn so as to suggest that she could crush concrete blocks with her thighs. However, notice that when the fighting is over, particularly if she wins, she often immediately makes a personality shift into bouncy, giggling girlishness. That, plus the size-mitigating design elements, such as the outsized bracelets and the big anime Bambi eyes, has the overall effect of making an otherwise adult woman register in your subconscious as something close to a little girl, almost to the point of infantilization. The message, intended or not, is an effective lessening of her sexual strength. Oh yeah, you know, she seems tough, but underneath, nah, just a little girl, wants someone to be in charge and take care of her. Women. These are girls. Now, let's be perfectly frank on this, guys. The unspoken appeal of this design type is the subconscious implication, thus you stand no chance of being found sexually inadequate. Now, whether you recognize it or not, that's why they're designed like that. That's why it works. Cammy, on the other hand, Cammy is working under some of the same strictures, such as her overall diminutive stature and ridiculous pigtails, but it's not reflected in personality. In fact, nothing is reflected in Cammy's personality. She's a classic stone-cold ice queen, generally depicted with a demeanor that says not interested to suitors in general, and male suitors in particular. You'd probably get more physical warmth trying to fuck a snowman. Ah, well, she ain't having it anyway. Samus Aran and the non-Angelina Jolie versions of Lara Croft more or less fit into this same spectrum. There, don't you feel better? Now, in light of all that, look at Bayonetta. Overdeveloped, of course, is a word that first comes to mind. Let's be right up front here. Unnaturally large, shapely chest? Damn right. but right above that is a neck that's just as unnaturally long and unnaturally graceful. And between that, you'll find properly defined shoulders and arms of proportionate musculature.